You wanted a deep dive on creativity, right? Well, we've got just the thing. We're diving into Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Ooh, good choice. It's a great one.
It really is. It's packed with insights on, living a more curious and creative life.
Totally. Big Magic is one of those books that, well, it speaks to just about everyone, not just artists.
Exactly. Doesn't matter if you're a painter or like a scientist or an entrepreneur, even if you just, love learning new things, there's something in there for everyone.
Absolutely. Gilbert's insights just, they really resonate no matter what you do.
Okay, so let's get into some of the big ideas here. Gilbert dives into some really fascinating stuff about where inspiration comes from, how we work with our ideas.
And of course, how to overcome those fears that can, totally block our creativity.
Right. And she encourages a more playful approach too, like moving away from that whole image of the, tortured artist
Yeah.
suffering for your art and all that.
Yeah, she really flips that script. Right.
One of the things I love about Big Magic is like how Gilbert weaves in all these amazing stories.
Oh, totally.
There's this one, it's about a novel that basically it seemed to escape from her and find its way to another writer.
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of wild.
We'll definitely have to get to that one.
Oh, we will. And we can't forget Tom Waits, right? He has a very unique way of describing how those song ideas come to him.
Very unique.
Okay, so we'll get into all of that, and we'll also dive into the power of saying yes to those little sparks of curiosity, the ones that can lead to amazing discoveries.
The best ones.
But first, let's talk about something that it can really make or break any creative endeavor: courage and fear. Gilbert tells this story about a poet named Jack Gilbert.
No relation, by the way.
No relation, right?
Yeah.
He made some pretty radical choices to, protect his creative spirit.
Jack Gilbert is, well, he's a fascinating example. He won the Yale Younger Poets Prize and was even nominated for a Pulitzer. He could have been a huge literary star.
Yeah, he really could have. But he chose a different path.
He did.
He basically said no thanks to fame.
Yeah, he wasn't interested in the whole celebrity scene. Found it kind of boring, actually.
Wow. So he wanted a deeper, more authentic experience.
Exactly. And he ended up living a very simple life. Spent years, get this, in a shepherd's hut.
A shepherd's hut.
Yeah, on a mountaintop in Greece. Dedicated his time to his poetry.
Wow. Now that's dedication.
Yeah.
He really believed in, taking risks,
Yeah.
pushing beyond your comfort zone. He actually told his students that bravery, well, he said it's essential to reaching your full potential and really experiencing the world in all its richness.
Hmm.
It's a message that I think it really resonates. Don't you think?
Definitely.
Makes you wonder, is there something you long to do, but, fear is holding you back?
It's a question worth asking, that's for sure. Even Elizabeth Gilbert, she had to overcome a lot of fear to get to where she is today.
No.
She talks about creating this persona. She called her Pitiful Pearl.
Pitiful Pearl. Yeah.
As a way of, coping with her anxieties.
Oh, Pitiful Pearl.
Mhm.
I think we've all channeled that energy at some point in our lives, like playing small, to avoid putting ourselves out there.
Totally.
But eventually, Gilbert had a breakthrough. She realized that fear was, get this, she realized it was actually boring.
Such an interesting perspective shift, right?
It really is.
When you see fear for what it is, just this repetitive loop that keeps us stuck, prevents us from growing, it kind of starts to lose its grip on you.
Yeah, it does. So how do you deal with fear when it inevitably shows up?
Well, Gilbert actually has this whole welcoming speech she gives to fear whenever she starts a new project.
A welcoming speech.
Yeah, it's like she invites fear along for the ride, acknowledges its presence, but without letting it take over.
That's pretty powerful. Okay, now for the really mind-bending part. Gilbert proposes that ideas actually exist as independent entities, almost like living beings searching for human partners to bring them to life.
It sounds a little out there, I know, but she describes this this vivid process where an idea, it actually tries to get your attention.
Oh, wow.
Sending you signals, creating coincidences, maybe even waking you up in the middle of the night with inspiration.
Oh, like when when the idea seems to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You're suddenly, struck by inspiration. But maybe it's not coming from nowhere. Maybe it's an idea that was actively trying to connect with you.
Right. And when you're finally open and receptive to that inspiration, it's like you enter into a kind of partnership with the idea.
A partnership.
Gilbert says there are two types of, she calls them contracts that you can make with an idea.
Two types of contracts.
Yeah, there's the traditional suffering artist contract.
Oh, the one where you're supposed to torment yourself and everyone around you for the sake of your art.
That's the one. It's ironic, isn't it? This idea that creativity has to be like born from pain and struggle.
It does seem kind of backwards.
Gilbert actually argues that this approach, well, it's not only inaccurate, but can also lead to a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Which, yeah.
So instead, she advocates for a contract based on collaboration and joy, working with the idea, not against it.
That sounds way better. Okay, so what happens when an idea shows up but you're not quite ready for it?
Well, Gilbert has an incredible story about that.
Well,
She had this big idea for a novel about the Amazon rainforest in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
She was really excited about it, started doing research, taking notes, making space in her life for this project.
cool.
But then, well, as life often does, things got in the way.
Oh, no.
And she had to put the novel aside for almost a year to deal with some unexpected personal issues.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
Right. And when she finally came back to it, well, she had a shocking realization. The idea was completely gone.
Wait. Are you serious? Gone.
Vanished. Without a trace.
She couldn't remember anything about it.
Not a single detail. It was like, well, as if the idea had decided to move on to someone else.
Whoa, okay. This is where things start to get really interesting. It sounds like this idea, it had a life of its own and just decided to, find a new home.
And that's exactly what happened. Around the same time Gilbert lost her idea, her friend, the author Anne Patchett, she started developing a very similar idea for a novel.
No way. So the idea that, disappeared from Gilbert's mind, it somehow found its way to Anne Patchett.
That's what it seems like. And what's even more fascinating is that, well, Anne Patchett is known for her, her rational, grounded approach to writing, but even she felt like there was something mysterious at play.
Wow. So even someone as level-headed as Anne Patchett, she sensed that there was more to this than just coincidence. I'm curious, how did Gilbert react to all of this? Was she upset that her idea was gone, or, maybe a little envious that her friend was now writing the novel she had envisioned?
Surprisingly, she wasn't at all. She actually chose to embrace the mystery, and she felt a sense of gratitude for the experience. She saw it as a sign that, that ideas have a way of finding the right collaborator, even if it's not the person they initially came to.
That's a really beautiful way to look at it. Makes you wonder if we should be holding our ideas so tightly, or if we should be more open to letting them flow and find their own path. What do you think? Have you ever had an idea, fade away, or maybe even reappear unexpectedly in a different form?
It definitely makes you think about, the nature of creativity and how inspiration really works. And that leads us to another key theme in Big Magic, the importance of curiosity. Gilbert argues that curiosity is actually a more sustainable fuel for creativity than passion.
That's an interesting point. We hear so much about, following your passion. But passion can be fleeting, right? Curiosity, on the other hand, it can lead you down all sorts of unexpected paths.
Yeah.
And keep you engaged even when, things get tough.
Exactly. Gilbert highlights creators like Joyce Carol Oates, who's incredibly prolific and explores such a wide range of themes in her writing.
Yeah.
And then there's James Franco, who seems to be involved in everything, from acting and directing to writing and visual art.
Oh, and let's not forget Bruce Springsteen, right? He's not just a rock legend. He's also a curious mind, who once wrote an entire album inspired by John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath.
It's true. All of these creators, they demonstrate how curiosity can, take you in such unexpected directions and lead to some truly innovative and creative outcomes. And the best part is curiosity is accessible to everyone, not just those we consider geniuses.
So how do we tap into that curiosity and use it to, fuel our creative work?
Well, Gilbert talks about treating inspiration like a scavenger hunt.
A scavenger hunt. Okay.
Yeah, she shares this great story about how a simple question about the flowers in her garden led her on a creative adventure.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So Gilbert was curious about the origins of these heirloom irises she had in her garden. Just a simple question.
Right.
But that question led her to discover that those irises, they were actually native to Syria.
Wow, that's quite a journey for a flower.
Right. And then that sparked another question. Where did the Where did all the other plants in her garden come from? That led her to research the botanical history and global trade routes
Right.
of, all sorts of plants, which eventually it turned into a whole new writing project for her.
It's amazing how one little spark of curiosity can ignite this whole chain reaction of discovery and creativity.
Exactly. It reminds us that inspiration can be found in the most unexpected places. The key is to say yes to those little sparks of curiosity and see where they lead.
It's about trusting the process, even when you don't know where you're going. And sometimes that big magic, it unfolds in, well, quieter, less dramatic ways. Gilbert's mother, she had some great advice. She always said, done is better than good.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's such a simple but powerful reminder to just focus on the joy of creating and let go of the need for perfection.
I think we can all relate to that, right? We get so caught up in like striving for perfection, but sometimes just finishing something is a victory in itself.
Absolutely. And that brings us to some final thoughts from a couple of creative heavyweights, Tom Waits and Richard Ford. We talked earlier about Tom Waits and his unique perspective on songwriting.
Yeah, he has character.
He said some songs come easily, like dreams taken through a straw, while others require more effort, like digging potatoes out of the ground.
Love that.
He also talked about the importance of learning to let go of ideas that aren't ready.
Yeah.
Sometimes an idea just needs to like simmer for a while, or maybe
Yeah.
it's meant for someone else entirely.
It sounds like he's learned to trust his instincts
Yeah.
and not force things.
And then there's Richard Ford, who gave some rather unconventional advice to a struggling writer who was
Uh,
feeling discouraged.
Sure.
He told the writer to quit.
Wait, quit. Isn't that like the opposite of what a mentor is supposed to say?
It seems counterintuitive, I know, but Ford had a really insightful point. He said, "Give yourself permission to quit, unless nothing else fills that creative void."
So it's not about giving up on your dreams. It's about being honest with yourself about what truly matters.
Right.
It's about tuning into that inner compass and making sure you're on a path that truly resonates with you. If you walk away from something and you feel a sense of relief, well, maybe it wasn't meant for you. But if you keep coming back to it, that's a sign to keep exploring.
Exactly. And remember, creativity, it isn't always about creating a finished product or even something useful. Gilbert argues that the real value of creativity, well, it lies in what it does for us internally.
It's about that journey of self-discovery and growth, how creativity expands our imagination and helps us to see the world in new ways.
Right. It reminds us to let go of the pressure to create something great and to find the joy in the process itself. Gilbert actually has this great analogy where she compares creative work to making jewelry for the inside of other people's minds.
I love that. It really takes the ego out of the equation, doesn't it? And it invites us to approach our creative endeavors with a sense of lightness
Yeah.
and playfulness.
It reminds me of how Tom Waits described watching his children create. They were so free and uninhibited, completely absorbed in the joy of the process, no worries about being good or impressing anyone, and that's where the true magic lies.
It's about tapping into that childlike sense of wonder
Right.
and approaching our work with a sense of pure joy and experimentation. So as we wrap up our deep dive into big magic, what resonates most with you? What's one key takeaway you'll carry with you?
For me, it's the reminder that creativity, it's not some exclusive talent reserved for a select few. It's an innate human capacity
Right.
that we can all tap into if we're willing to be courageous, curious, and playful.
Beautifully said. And remember, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about saying yes to those sparks of inspiration, trusting the process, and being open to the unexpected detours, the ones that might lead to the most magical discoveries. So what small act of curiosity will you say yes to today? Maybe it's finally picking up that paintbrush, dusting off that old guitar, or simply taking a different route on your walk home. Embrace the unknown and see where the magic takes you.
Did you get any of that?